Seriously, I think this thing used to be the Craterhoof Behemoth, or at least it's inspired by that creature, because it's absolutely terrifying. Definitely a very severe threat, and I'm sure someone will find a way to use it efficiently. Plus, with an emerge on it, I'm sure there's going to be a very, very, very nasty way to, well, overrun your opponent, so to speak. Again, I'm really confused by why everything here is turning into an Eldrazi when everything on Zendikar just seemed to stay the same. We now have Eldrazi insects that are very large and for some reason like to attack our hands. The thing I don't really like about this card is that although getting the hand attack is nice, you're not going to get it for quite a while in the game, and usually the thing I dislike about late game hand attack is that when you cast it so late in the game, unless your opponent's playing like a control or a really slow combo deck, they're not going to have anything in their hand. In short, unless you have a way to emerge this pretty quickly, this effect isn't going to be that great. Personally, I'm really not that big a fan of emerge because usually you have to get rid of your board state in order for it to really be efficient. Fortunately, the emerge cards do usually have some sort of benefit upon casting them, that giving you temporary or long-term value. I mean, it's nice. Usually you'll see them take cards. They'll take, like, the big bugger will take cards. Some things will tap creatures like this octopus here. They'll destroy enchantments. There are several different things. There's usually some value to gain from it, but just keep in mind you're usually going to be losing something unless you have some way to, like when this creature dies, you get creature tokens, or it persists or undies if you're playing another format. It's not something you really want to be doing too much with the wrong creature, so you do have to be careful when using it. On the bright side, all you food chain players have a new piece for your food chain deck in the form of Eternal Scourge. So in addition to Mist Hologriffin, you now have a cute little Eldrazi that you can just keep using with food chain, and it's very cute and very splendid. Nice that you have another friend that you can play with. Looping Prototype is a really interesting card. It's pretty easy to say that a 5/5 for 2 is definitely pushed, but with a drawback like that, it can be kind of hard to achieve this. Fortunately, if you would have a discard outlet, you can just pitch all the cards in your hand and just keep attacking with your Mech Warrior Werewolf. Although you would probably rather prefer to have your opponent have no cards in hand. If you're on Madness, you shouldn't have a whole lot of shame of just getting rid of most of your hand. Still, this thing does kind of restrict yourself, and unless you play like a deck that you know gets rid of their hand really fast, this may not be the card for you. If you run an EDH deck with tons of creatures with Vigilance, then maybe Stitcher's Graft may be right for you. Considering it's equipment that's cheap and gives such a big boost, and since creatures that don't tap to attack won't really be affected by its abilities, it may be ideal for that extra power boost you need to knock out your opponent. Pretty nice if you know you can get around the doesn't untap during its untap step clause. We now discovered that Butcher's Cleavers are good for something else. Making Eldrazi sandwiches! Delicious! Also, I just realized that this Scarecrow here is actually making my Converge creatures cost more, and therefore giving me the option of whether or not I should add additional counters to them. That's kind of funny in a way. I don't know if Wizards intended that to happen. Personally, my favorite artifact is the Cryptolith Fragment. Not only is it a ramp spell, but I just love how it transforms into this Eldrazi Reflection. Wasn't there a card made a really long time ago that said destroy all reflections? I guess that's actually going to be relevant now in Legacy whenever that happens, if that ever happens. So we have finally come all this way. We've waited a very long time, probably since 2015, so to speak, for this moment to come, and it finally has. And I guess you could say it has a very appropriate name. It is Emrakul, the Promised End. And honestly, I was kind of underwhelmed when I saw this card. Mainly because Emrakul is the strongest of all the Eldrazi Titans, or at least of the original three. And you figured that, maybe she would do something more devastating than the original Emrakul. Kind of like how the new Ulamog did something that was arguably more devastating than the original Ulamog. Or how the new Kozilek arguably did something that was more ridiculous than the original Kozilek. But for Emrakul, I don't really say I can say the same thing. I still think the old Emrakul is a lot better than the new one. Although I wouldn't quite say new Emrakul is terrible. I feel like there will be a time when you can cast it for a very low cost due to all the card types in your graveyard. And I do think that gaining control of an opponent can be nice, especially if you know they have an activated ability where they have to pay life, and that way you can control them to pay all their life. The thing I don't get is, why do they get a turn after? Shouldn't this be like an Eldrazi that's ruthless and cruel, and shouldn't it be or feel like you have such a huge advantage? If this didn't give your opponent another turn after it, I feel like this arguably would be stronger than the original Emrakul. And it's just because, although the original Emrakul did give you an extra turn, not giving your opponent a turn after this would kind of feel like getting 3 turns in a sense, and your opponent would essentially be screwed either way. In addition, new Emrakul also just has protection from instants, and it has trample, which is good and kind of bad compared to the last Emrakul. Old Emrakul had Annihilator, like all the other Eldrazi's, and Annihilator has been nowhere to be found on anything in this set, or any of the sets in the last 2 years. That featured the Eldrazi. Still, I feel like this is not a bad card. It's just not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting Emrakul to be a lot bigger. I was expecting it to be like a 17-17, if not larger. I mean, with all the time that has gone by, you would think that Emrakul would be a lot stronger, but it's just wasn't meant to be, I guess. I guess they figured if they pushed Emrakul any higher up on the power level, it would just be completely unfair. But that being said, I feel like this could have been a lot more pushed, and I think it should have been pushed just because of the hype that it has. Another thing that I forgot to touch up in the blue section is we forgot that Emrakul is now going to be forever imprisoned in Innistrad's Moon, and I think we all kind of knew this was going to happen anyway. It's just kind of a bummer that everyone kind of knew that this was going to happen. And it's kind of sad how predictable Wizards has been this last, I guess you could say, like 3 to 6 months or so. Hopefully the next few blocks will have a bit more excitement and a few more surprises that we won't be able to see coming from a mile away. So that was our review of Eldritch Moon for Constructed Magic. Honestly, I think this is kind of not as good as Shadows over Innistrad. I was kind of hoping it would build more on the flavor of that set, and I feel like it really kind of made a kind of a nosedive. I wouldn't say the set is bad though. I think there's a lot of great cards in it, and I think they will be very impactful to, especially Standard, probably more so than other formats, due to the fact that we got a lot of great tech and a lot of great vampires, and it's going to impact that format more so than others, I feel. But I could be wrong. Like I say, I think there's some good cards that could be really good in Modern. It's just, like I said, we need to really brew with these cards a lot before we know for sure. And I think it's definitely going to be a lot of fun playing with these cards. Overall, I think I'm going to give this set probably about a C, maybe a C minus. I feel like I said, there's some really good cards in it, but I really do not like the way a lot of the mechanics were built and the way they didn't really, I wouldn't say they ruined werewolves, but it's just not what people really wanted, and I don't think anybody really wanted a meld either. And if you were going to push meld so much, make more meld creatures. There should have been at least like one for each color, or at least like have like a white one, a blue one, a black one, a red one, a green one, and a multicolored one, and you can have like all your goofy Eldrazi abominations of like Siamese twins and stuff. You could have obviously done one for Gisa and Giraffe. That was like begging to be done. Come on. Like I say, I'm a little disappointed in the set. I wouldn't say it's making me upset, but it's definitely it definitely could have been better, and I think you could have developed Madness a bit more. Investigate was gone entirely, but then again, I guess it kind of makes sense because we kind of know what's happening now that Emrakul is here, and now she's in the moon. Oh well. Well, we'll probably won't see Emrakul again for another few decades or so, but who knows? And maybe there'll be a bigger threat coming out. We might experience the return of the Phyrexian Legion soon. Yay. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Again, this is the time of year, or this is one of the times of year where being a Magic player is just really wonderful, and how we get to play with all these new toys and all these great cards and mechanics that make us express the way we love this game and how big a part of it is to our lives and how much gaming means to us. And it's just really a wonderful experience. And ever since I've been playing this game, I've always thought it was a wonderful experience when a new set comes out. Even though not every set has been an entirely 100% winner. And this is not one of those sets. Like I say, I like this set, but it definitely could have been better. And I don't think everyone's happy with the outcome of it. I'm not entirely happy either, but like I say, I'm happy to try out a lot of the cards in this set. I'm probably going to do another set review of this for Kaladesh when it comes out. I'm expecting there to be a lot of artifacts in that set, but we won't know until September. So my next review will be then. Until then, stay tuned. I got a lot more content coming up, and I will see you all next time.